Good evening to one and all. The School of Ancient Wisdom is happy to welcome all of you to yet another learning session this evening. We thank you for your participation and welcome all of you in the ongoing webinar series. So let us begin with the school prayer. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Thank you. Today we have with us Veeraraghavacharya, who learned Sanatana Dharma directly through Paramparik Acharya through the traditional system of Kalakshepa. Also, he holds a degree in Nyaya philosophy. So we thank you very much for your valuable time and truly appreciate it. We now hand over this forum to Shri Veeraraghavacharya ji to engage us for the next 1 hour and request him to share his knowledge and insights with us. Thank you.
Thank you. This prayer actually reminds me of a shloka from Bhagavad-gita. In the 5th chapter, Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shunichaiva Shvapakecha Panditas Samadarshinaha. Bhagavad Ramanuja, when he composed the commentary on Bhagavad-gita, he took a very slight deviation from Shankaracharya for this particular shloka. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane. In a Brahmana who is endowed with Vidya, that is education, which gives knowledge, and that knowledge gives humility. Such a great Brahmana, and even in an animal like a cow, or an elephant, or even in a dog, or a man who eats that very dog. In all of these people, Panditas, that is scholarly people, those who have realized the Tattva, they see oneness. Pandita Samadarshinaha. This is what is said in the shloka. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane, in a very scholarly Brahmana who has therefore become humble out of the knowledge. This is how Shankaracharya has interpreted. Bhagavad Ramanuja, when presenting the Bhashya from the side of Vishishtadvaitha, he says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, in one who is endowed with Vidya, education, which has led to the humility, and in Brahmane, that is, in an ordinary Brahmana. Gavi, in a normal sized animal, that is the cow. Hastini, in a large animal, that is the elephant. Shuni, in a dog. Shvapake, in the person who kills the dog and eats its meat. In this manner, Bhagavad Ramanuja contrasts all of these, dividing the 6 into 3 different sets of opposites. And then he says, in all of these differences, Panditaha Samadarshinaha. The Panditas see oneness. I was reminded of that verse when listening to the prayer today. So I thought I'll take some extra time to add it. But anyway, let us move on. श्रीवत्सवंशकलशोदधि कौस्तुभस्य श्रीवासराघवगुरोस्तनयं ततश्च विद्या अवाप्य विबुधोत्तमतां दधानं कुर्वे सदा हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यम् लक्ष्मीनाथ समारंभां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां हृदि. Let us take a very quick recap of what we learned in the previous class, and also today I will share a reference for what we went through in the previous class. One of the important things that we saw was the meaning of the word Alvar. It means one who is immersed. The ir suffix is to give respect to him. These saints, the Alvar saints, who are known to be the uh, earliest saints who have directly written specific Sri Vaishnava literature, that too in a non-Sanskrit language. They were immersed in bhakti, they were immersed in Bhagavan, and they were immersed in seva to Bhagavan. Alvar means one who rules. They could be called as the foremost of devotees, and therefore this word would also be appropriate to them. But they themselves, being void of ego, being void of any kind of pride, always believed to be sevakas of Bhagavan. We also saw a theoretical part of Vishishtadvaitha. We saw that there are three types of entities. The word tattva is used for entity. In Advaita, there is a single tattva. It is called Atma. It is called Brahman. Here, in Vishishtadvaita, there is Chit, Achit, and Ishvara, among which Chit and Ishvara are Atman. One is Jivatman, one is Paramatman. Achit refers to the Jada, that is non-living. And we also saw the classification. Ishvara cannot be classified. The non-living entities can be classified into Shuddha Sattva, that is pure Sattva, then Mishra Sattva or Prakriti, which is made up of Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, as stated by Krishna in Bhagavad-gita, and then Kala, time. So we have matter and we have time, both of which are operating in space. Space is not an entity, it is an axis. Then there is Chit, Jivatma, which could be classified into Baddha, that which is bound, which is affected by Maya, which has not got complete realization, has not got mukti. The second type is Mukta, which has got mukti at some point of time and is currently in that state of mukti, because mukti defined here is eternal. Then there is a third kind, Nitya, which is Nitya Mukta. It has been in the state of mukti since forever and will remain so forever. This is what we saw when we were seeing this. Suggestion for a reference book was asked. I will share a link to a PDF available online, which has a translation in English as well. Today's agenda is going to be about the purpose of birth of the Alvars and the first three Alvars. There were 12 Alvars in total. Among these saints, we will look at the first three Alvars, and when the three Alvars happened to meet each other, they saw a fourth person as well. We would see that. I'm being a little quick in the introductory parts, but now we will go slowly. When it comes to the purpose of birth of the Alvars, I had stated that they were Nitya Suris. They were the Nitya Sevakas of Bhagavan, who were eternally in the state of mukti. If you are already in the state of mukti, if you have already attained liberation, if your knowledge is infinite, if your bliss is infinite, would you really have any kind of birth? Would you require any birth? Is it even possible? Sanatana Dharma says it is possible. We see in the case of Bhagavan himself, being endowed with all auspicious qualities to the maximal extent, Bhagavan still takes avataras. So he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So he comes in every yuga for some purpose, he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. Some purpose is there, but for that purpose, even that Bhagavan, who has nothing really to gain for himself, is taking avataras. Why? for the sake of others, for the sake of helping others, for teaching others. When he came as Rama, he taught how to live the perfect life. When he came as Krishna, he gave the theoretical part of it in what we call Bhagavad-gita. As they say, Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gita Mrutam Mahat. If you take all the Upanishads as cows, then the milk of that cows is Gita. That is what the shloka says in short. It is the very essence of the Vedas. That is what was conveyed in Bhagavad-gita. Despite conveying in Bhagavad-gita, despite saying Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha, Mamekam Sharanam Raja, take refuge in me. He said, I am the supreme reality that you should seek. You should take refuge in me. Despite him saying that, many people did not go ahead and follow it. Krishna says that also. He says, Jnanavan su durlabha. So, bahunam janmanamante, jnanavan mam prapadyate, vasudeva sarvamiti, sa mahatma su durlabha. So, Krishna says that finding such a person who surrenders to me after very many lives, one person comes and surrenders to me. That person who thinks that everything is Vasudeva, that person who thinks of nothing other than Vasudeva, that kind of Mahatma is Durlabha. He is very difficult to find. Now, to help the people who were in the state of ignorance, these specific Nityasuris took incarnation on earth so that they could teach this bhakti that Krishna talks about, this sharanagati that Krishna talks about. What qualification did they have? Yes, they had infinite knowledge, they had infinite bliss, there was nothing for them to achieve either. It is purely out of compassion. But secondly, or more importantly, they were completely immersed in bhakti themselves. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, as Krishna says, that is the way the Alvars also behaved. Therefore, they had the qualification to give that bhakti, to share that bhakti, and produce that bhakti in others as well. So, their primary purpose of birth was to teach bhakti. The second reason is to present Vedic teachings in a practical form. What do we mean by practical form? There are theoretical parts and practical parts. What is the nature of the Atma? That is theory. What should we do to realize it? That is practical. So the practical aspect of the Vedic teachings is what we see as conveyed by the verses composed by the Alvars. The third thing was that they wanted to present Vedic teachings to people of all communities. Now, to study the Veda, there are several qualifications required. I need to know Sanskrit, I need to master grammar, I need to master Nyaya, I need to master Mimamsa. There is a separate interpretation science, I need Chandas, I need Shiksha. After learning all of that, people would still misinterpret the Vedas. This is what was happening. But if we present in a simple way, a practical form and a simple form that could reach all people, even those who are not very scholarly or who are not born into those communities that are known to continuously study a lot, those who are not known to be around scholars, even those people should be able to understand the teachings. That purpose was served very beautifully by the Alvars and the subsequent Acharyas who came. The first Alvar, called Poigai Alvar, we call him Saroyogi. Saras means the same as Poigai. Poigai is a Tamil word. Saroyogi is what we call him in Sanskrit or Hindi. So he was born near Yatoktakari temple. There's a spelling mistake there in the slide. I'm sorry for that. Yadhoktakari temple, which in Tamil Nadu is famous as Sonnavannam Seida Perumal Kovil. What does that Yadhoktakari mean? It means that as soon as it has been said, it has also been done. By whom? By Bhagavan. Bhagavan is of that nature. When he says something, he immediately does it as well. That great Bhagavan, near his temple in Kanchipuram, at a small pond on a flower, Poigai Alvar was born. The first three Alvars that we are going to look at today, none of them was born to human beings. They were all born on flowers. They descended to the earth. They were divine incarnations. They were Nitya Suris. So this Saro Yogi or Poigai Alvar, he is an incarnation of the Shankha of Vishnu. The Shankha is a Nitya Suri. How do we understand this? Now a person might ask, isn't it just a conch shell that Vishnu is carrying? Why should we believe that there is an Atma within? But in the Brahma Sutras, also called the Vedanta Sutras, Vedavyasa says that anything that has a name and a form has an Atma within. In that sense, a Jiva exists inside the Shankha of Bhagavan. That Jiva is a Nitya Mukta. It is a Nitya Suri. This Nitya Suri Jiva, which is also called Shankha, was incarnated as Poigai Alvar. Of course, like every Alvar is going to the third point in the slide, is common to every single Alvar. So Poigai Alvar lived a saintly life. He stayed away from materialistic desires and pursuits. He focused completely on Bhagavan, Vasudevas Sarvamiti, Sa Mahatma. That is how he was. And he visited different temples and sang praises of Bhagavan. This is what the Alvars have generally done. Now, in Tamil, there is a scripture, Vishishtadvaitha scripture, a Shri Vaishnava scripture called Divya Prabandham. This Divya Prabandham is nothing but a collection of verses composed by the different Alvars. As Poigai Alvar is the first Alvar, the very first verses of Divya Prabandham were composed by him. So, as a sample, I have presented the translation of his first verse. He says that Sriman Narayana is the cause of this wonderful universe and the seas, implying that he is the one who has created both land and water. He holds the divine chakra. Imagine if Shankha is looking at Bhagavan, he would be able to see the chakra first. He might not be able to see himself. As a means to cross this samsara sagara, the ocean of the physical universe that we are living in, for that, I am dedicating these verses. And he further says, I had his vision. I had the vision of Bhagavan in the light of the lamp of earth. That is, he says, take the land, that is earth, to be a lamp. Then he says, the lubricant ghee being the waters of the ocean. You take the waters of the ocean to be the ghee that is added in the lamp. Then, where is the fire? Look at the sun. The sun that gives light and removes ignorance reminds us of the fire that is there in the lamp. That bright sun sheds us light on Bhagavan. So, by looking at everything Like I look at the land, I look at the sea, I look up and see the sun. By looking at all of these, I have the vision of Bhagavan. This is a verse by Poigai Alvar. Please let me know if I am going a little fast, I will slow down. Otherwise, I will go at the current speed itself. Is the current speed okay?
It's okay, sir. It's very nice.
Okay. The second Alvar, Bhutat Alvar, he is also called Bhuta Yogi in Hindi or Sanskrit. He was born on the shores of Mahabalipuram, and he was an incarnation of Kaumodaki. Now, I'm not really sure if people here have studied the Panchayudha Stotra composed by Shankaracharya. Basically, Vishnu is known for his 5 divine weapons, right? The chakra, the shankha, the sharanga, bow that he has, the Kaumodaki gada that he has, and the khadga. All of these are called collectively Panchayudha. On the Shankaracharya had composed stotra, which is quite popular. So one of those is Kaumodaki. That Kaumodaki, the mace that Bhagavan had, incarnated as Bhutatalvar. He composed another 100 verses, which form the second 100 verses of Divya Bandha. In his verses, he additionally explains the 5 types of avataras of Bhagavan. In Vishishtadvaitha philosophy, and also in a few other philosophies, the 5 types of avataras of Bhagavan are discussed. They are Para, Vyuha, Vibhava, Antaryami, and Archa. These 5 types of avataras of Bhagavan, they are described in the scriptures itself. It is based on the scriptures that these are presented. In his very supreme form, the original form, we call it as Para. But that Paramatma, Sriman Narayana, he takes Vyuha avataras as explained by scriptures like Pancharatra into Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Not to be confused with Krishna, Balarama, Krishna's son and grandson. They lived during a specific period of time, whereas the Vyuha avataras are to be understood as being different. So, these are the Vyuha avataras, the 4 Vyuhas he takes. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then there are Vibhava avataras, which are the more popular avatars that we talk about. Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Balarama, Krishna, Kalki, all of these, as well as a few others. Like we are usually presented with 10 avatars of Bhagavan. But if we go through the Puranas, we are told that he takes infinite avatars. Srimad Bhagavatam lists much more than 10. As a matter of fact, it lists more than 20. So there are avatars taken by Bhagavan. As he says, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. There are plenty of avatars taken by Bhagavan, which are not part of the Dashavatara. For example, if we take Kurma Avatara, in the story of Kurma, people might be aware, it is in the same story that we see Mohini. We see Mohini in the same story. We also see Dhanvantari in the same story. All of these are forms taken by Vishnu, who was also behaving as Upendra, standing along with Indra and pulling the serpent as well. Pulling the tail side of the serpent, pulling the tail of the serpent, literally, along with Indra. So in 4 different forms in the same episode, Bhagavan has come. In Dashavatara, we talk only about Kurma. But what about the others? They are also incarnations of him. Okay. Para is done, Vyuha is done, Vibhava is done. Then there is a form that is called Antaryami. Antaryami means indweller. He exists inside everything. As Prahlada tells his father, he exists inside everything. There is no place where he is absent. He is omnipresent. As the indweller of everything, as the Veda also says, Antar Bahishtatat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha, that he is both inside and outside of everything, and he is spread that way everywhere. Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha. Narayana is established everywhere, says the Veda itself. That is what is presented by Prahlada to his father. That indwelling form is what is called as Antaryami. And then there is finally a fifth type of avatara of Vishnu, which is a special type. It is a type where the body appears to be made by humans. It is the Vigraha that we find in temples. When a Vigraha, that is the statue of Bhagavan, is sculpted and then pratishtha is done for it, when it is established as per the rules of scriptures by reciting the necessary mantras and performing the necessary rituals, it is supposed to assume a Shuddha Sattva Swarupa. What is Shuddha Sattva? One of the types of Achit we saw earlier. When it attains that, Bhagavan also comes and blesses us through that Vigraha. This is specifically explained in the Vaishnava Agamas. Why do I have to say specifically? In other Agamas it might be there, but there are differences as well here and there. For example, if we consider Shiva Linga, Linga is a symbol of Shiva. Linga, the word Linga there refers to symbol. As Swami Vivekananda rightly pointed out to the British who were misunderstanding and misinterpreting the Shiva Linga. So Linga is a symbol, whereas when it comes to a Vigraha of Vishnu, for which Pratishtha has been done as per Pancharatra or Vaikhanasa, it would be taken as Bhagavan himself in order to give us blessings. Even during the times when he is not taking avatara, Vishnu decided to take the Archa form. This is the fifth type of avatara of Bhagavan. We will come to this again in future in another class. That is why I have not added a flow chart for it. But we will definitely go through the concept again. Because I have mentioned it here, I explained. So this Bhut Yogi, he says in his first verse, he says that I have written this song that bestows wisdom. He is also using the comparison of a lamp. He is also using a comparison of ghee. Why is he doing all of that? We will see it very soon. But there is the exact comparison is different from what Poigai Alvar said. Do you remember what Poigai Alvar said? He talked about the land, the sea, and the sun. But look at Bhudat Alvar. He says, with love as the lamp, with endearing involvement as the ghee, and with knowledge as the wick, I dedicated myself to the service of Bhagavan. This is how he says. So, with love, why? Love is mandatory in bhakti. Sneha purvam anudhyanam bhaktirityabhidiyate, says Linga Purana. So, that sneha, love, needs to be there. But if I say I have love, but I will not do anything, that is cheating. A person who has pure love would show involvement. And with that involvement, okay, let us say I have love and I have involvement. But what if I do everything incorrectly? I need to have the knowledge that lets me to perform things in the correct manner. That knowledge also, if I get all the three, then I will definitely dedicate myself to Bhagavan. Why? Because knowledge says, Mam ekam sharanam raja. The involvement that we have should be towards Paramatma. The love that we have should be towards Paramatma. That is the best kind of love. We should love everybody. We should love everything. But the best of the love is the love that we could show to Paramatma. Why? Because he shows us infinite love. We cannot reciprocate in an equal manner. But when we love him back, it becomes a type of reciprocation to at least a very small degree. With that small degree, with pure involvement, with a pure mind, we don't have to do very great difficult things. Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Everybody knows. It is not necessary to do extremely difficult things to please Bhagavan. It is very easy to please him. But we need to have proper knowledge as well, right? We should know who is Paramatma. We should know why we are surrendering to him and so on. When all of these are there, the concluding path would be that of Sharanagati, which is a path that is taught by the Vedas as well. The third Alvar is called Pei Alvar. He is called Mahatahvaya in Sanskrit. Mahatahvaya was born in Mailapur. The name Mailapur itself, that the word Mail means peacock. The place used to have lots of peacocks roaming around. There are plenty of records stating so. It was a very beautiful place back then. He was an avatara of Nandaka. What is Nandaka? Tam Nandakam Nama Hare. I surrender to all the 5 weapons of Vishnu, not just to Vishnu. In Panchayudha Stotra, Shankaracharya says, Sharanam Prapadye. Says the khadga that is there with Vishnu, the sword, the short sword that is there with Vishnu, let us surrender to that as well. Mahatahvaya was an avatara of this Nandaka, which is another Nityasuri. One important thing to note is that in his verses, he says he explains, if we see the first 2 verses itself, we would see that he has visualized the Sharira Shariri Bhava. What is Sharira Shariri Bhava? We will see in another class. But it is the essence of Vishishtadvaitha. I remember mentioning it in the first class, where Kashyapa Maharshi says, Sharire tava pashyami jagat sarvam idam prabho. It is a shloka present in Balakanda in Ramayana. Then even the Veda says, Yasya Atma Shariram, and so on. There are plenty of verses. So, this concept of Bhagavan being the Shariri and everything else and everybody else just being part of his Sharira, where Sharira is not just physical body, there is a technical definition to it. That was visualized by Peyalvar. He says, I have seen the glory of Shri. Who is Shri? She is the divine consort of Bhagavan. Shrishtate Lakshmishcha Patnyau says Veda. And how is that Bhagavan? Bhagavan is having a body that is very attractive. Why should Bhagavan always come with attractive bodies? We see in Ramayana that Rama was very attractive. We see in Mahabharata that Krishna was very attractive. We see even in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every time Bhagavan takes an avatar, we say it was very attractive, very attractive. Why should he be attractive? He comes in an attractive way so that we get attracted to him. He does not show off. On the contrary, he tries to pull us by showing his attraction. By showing his physical attraction, he makes us to develop an affinity towards him, which leads us to further knowledge, refinement of that knowledge. That further knowledge leads us to the appropriate action of Sharanagati. That takes us towards Bhagavan. This is the concept. It has been explained even Alvars in several of his verses. But anyway, so with his bewitching body that is azure in color as the sea and also has brilliance like the sun, on his one hand, he holds the chakra, the divine discus, that reverberates in the battlefield, that quickly goes and destroys all enemies, not just physical enemies, but also in the form of bad qualities. Maybe sometimes I get an evil mind, or maybe sometimes I get lazy. Even those are signs of ignorance. That ignorance is destroyed by the Sudarshana Chakra. On the other hand, he holds the divine conch, the divine Shankha. This Bhagavan, he says, Nandaka says, I have seen Shankha and Chakra with Bhagavan. He says, I have seen that Bhagavan along with Bhagavati. Vaikunthe tu pare loke Shriyasardham Jagatpati, as it is said in scriptures. It is even said in Vishnu Purana by Parashara Maharshi that Vishnu is always there with Lakshmi. He is never ever separated from her. That Lakshmi Devi, who is also called Shri, she is also seen by this Alvar. Now, there is a beautiful incident that is narrated in the context of these three Alvars. These three saints, they were born at slightly different places, all in the region of Tamil Nadu today, present day Tamil Nadu. They were born at around the same time period. They lived during the same time as each other. So one day, in Tirukkoilur, where Bhagavan is there in the form of Trivikrama, he is called so because he conquered the three worlds. Bhagavan came as Vamana. He suddenly grew up into a tall giant in front of Mahabali. That giant form, with one step and one more step, he conquered both the directions. From Atala to Patala, it is done. From Bhuloka to Satyaloka, it is done. There is nothing more to do. Then Mahabali surrendered to Bhagavan and said, please place your foot on my head. He kept the third step, granting Sharanagati to Mahabali. Hence, he is called three worlds. He has a famous temple in a place called Tirukkoilur. Once there, during daytime itself, there was very heavy rain. Naturally, the sky became dark with the rain-bearing clouds. But it was a very heavy rain. Poigai Alvar managed to find a very small shelter. He found a small shelter. He thought, okay, let me go inside the shelter and take rest. Because it is raining very heavily. It is going to be difficult to travel. I will stay here and lie down until the rain subsides. Once it subsides, we can move. So he went there and he lied down. It was a very small space. Only one person can lie down. Then he saw another person walking towards. Remember, it was quite dark. So it was not easy to see. Bhutat Alvar was coming by. He was also there getting drenched in the rain. He saw the same shelter and he also entered. Seeing that another person is entering, Now, Poigai Alvar knows that there is space only for one person to lie down. Why should he admit another person? He could always say, go away, this place has already been occupied by me, I am very sorry, please find some other shelter. But he did not do that. Seeing that a person is coming to take shelter from the rain, when one seeks shelter, it is our duty to grant shelter. That teaching that Bhagavan has given through multiple places in the scriptures, the Alvar followed. So he thought, why should I lie down? If I lie down, only one person could be here. But if we sit down instead, two people could be. So let me move and make way for him so that Bhutat Alvar could also come and sit. He did that. Both of them sat together. It was raining heavily. A third person came, Peyalvar. He was also seeking shelter. It was raining heavily. Now these two people thought, we are sitting. There is no place for a third person to come and sit. Only two people can sit here. It is a very small place. What can we do? No worries. Why do we need this luxury? When there is a person who is suffering in heavy rain, it is more important for us to help that person than to seek physical comfort. So let us stand up. The two of them stood up and made way for Peyalvar to enter. Now, all the three Alvars are there. The place has become full. Three people can stand inside. A fourth person cannot stand. There is no space for a fourth person. So they thought, okay, the three of us are here. We are able to stand. Let us continue standing till the rain ends. But then, suddenly, they started feeling uncomfortable. They felt as though a fourth person has entered. They tried to look at the fourth person. It was dark. It was raining heavily. They tried to look at the fourth person and they saw the light. Instantly, recognizing that this fourth person is not a human, but Bhagavan himself, who is doing Leela here. Bhagavan is playing by doing Leela here, by pretending to be a fourth person and coming and entering, by realizing that and having the desire to visualize Bhagavan properly. Poigai Alvar very quickly started composing verses. It is due to this desire to see him properly that we see words like lamp and fire in his first verse. Likewise, Bhutat Alvar also composed 100 verses. He also talks about lamp, ghee, and so on. And in this manner, the three Alvars composed a total of 300 verses, which form the first 300 verses of the Divya Prabandha. In these 300, they have taught the concept of Sri Vaishnavism. They have showed the outpour of bhakti. They have shown the value of bhakti. They have displayed that they have knowledge of the scriptures. It is not as though they are random poets who have written randomly in praise of Bhagavan. Everything that they have composed, everything that they sang, they composed by singing at that time. At that time, they could not, of course, three people are standing and a fourth person has come. There is no place. How would you expect them to compose? They composed by singing. So these verses, which were composed in such a specific way that the last word of every verse will be the same as the first word of the next verse. If I am completing one verse with a specific word, then I will start the next verse with the same word. That is the form in which all these 300 have been composed. So they composed in this manner. They showed that they had proficiency as poets. They showed that they had extreme devotion. They showed that they had knowledge of the scriptures, and that knowledge of the scriptures was presented by them in a very, very lucid way that even an ordinary person can understand. In this manner, and also spread bhakti. After these three Alvars, of course, there are going to be 9 more Alvars, among which one would be a female. It is after their time that the acharyas are going to be discussed, and it is in the line of these acharyas that Bhagavad Ramanuja is also going to come. So Ramanuja would frequently cite the Alvars. But there is also a rule of where to cite and where not to cite. If I am teaching to a person who has faith in me, I can say Alvar said this. I do not want to accept the words of Alvar as authentic, then I should not cite it. Correct? Where do you cite? You cite something only in those places where the people who read your citation believe the citation. That is the purpose of citation, right? Proving the point. So, we do not see citations, direct citations saying, oh, Divya Prabandham says this, Divya Prabandham says that. Bhagavad Ramanuja has not defended any of his claims by using Divya Prabandham. There he repeatedly cites the Sanskrit scriptures only. But there is complete resonance with the Sanskrit scriptures and the Divya Prabandham. The Sanskrit Vedas and the Divya Prabandham have complete resonance. They say the exact same thing. It is for this reason that the Divya Prabandha is also called as Dravida Veda. Why Dravida Veda? Because it was composed in Dravida Bhasha. Otherwise, it is teaching the exact same thing as the Vedas only. Therefore, we take it as Dravida Veda. This is a name given to the Divya Prabandha, which comprises of 4,000 verses in total, composed by 12 Alvars, among whom we saw the story of the first 3. So, in the next class, we will see the lives of some more Alvars and discuss a little more concept of Vishishtadvaitha. Today also we discussed one concept. That was the concept of avataras, the 5 types of avataras. We will come back to that and go in further detail in a future class for sure. But today, the focus was in learning who the Alvars were and what they did. We are trying to compress the stories of the Alvars as much as possible to ensure that we quickly move on and get to the concept. Because the title that I have taken is Vishishtadvaitha. Hence, the discussion that happens in these classes should be focused on Vishishtadvaitha. If I say, okay, he was here, he was born, he did this, he did that, that might not really be sounding that important. But at the core of Vishishtadvaita philosophy is Bhagavad Ramanuja. At the core of his interpretations lie his understandings of the teachings of the Alvars, at the core of the teachings of which are the Vedas themselves. It is for this reason that we cannot skip Alvars when learning about Vishishtadvaita. So we have seen about 3 Alvars. We will see more in the upcoming classes. So if any of you has any question, please let me know. And at when this class ends, I will also share the link for the reference for the 3 types of tattvas and their classification, right? Chit, Achit, and Ishvara. The reference link for that also I will share. and it would be added to the YouTube caption for the YouTube videos as well. So there people could use it for easy reference. So if there is any question, please.
Yeah, I am Janaki-Ram. Thank you very much for a very clear exposition. Maybe in the next class, you can tell us something, I mean, if it is relevant, more about what is the Suddha Sattva or pure Sattva.
Okay, sure, definitely. I will give a very short answer today. In the next class, I will explain it in further detail. Okay. See, there are three types of gunas. Krishna says there is Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. We see these three gunas everywhere. In non-living beings, we see it. In living beings can also be classified that way. Satviki, Rajasi, Chaiva, Tamasi, Cheti, Tam Shrunu, says Krishna in the 17th chapter. So, there are three gunas. I will have to explain the concept of gunas to explain Shuddha Sattva, because Shuddha Sattva means pure Sattva, and Sattva is one of the three gunas. So there
Chapter
is
14, more of us have read, most of us have read chapter 14,
sorry.
Gita,
Hmm.
about the gunas. So we are fairly familiar with Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, but
Okay.
only thing is how it is in non-living being is not clear to me at least.
Okay, got
Okay.
it, got it. So I will definitely explain that in the next class. It is there in for non-living beings as well. Everything is made up of the three only. I will explain that in greater detail in the next class. Thank you. Any other question?
Will we be learning Divya Prabandhams also in the classes?
There are 4,000 verses of Divya Prabandham. And when my Acharya teaches, he takes 1 hour to teach one verse.
Papa.
If we are to learn the Divya Prabandha, that would take 4,000 hours of learning. So, because having been a Shishya of a person who has explained to the fullest extent possible, it would not be appropriate for me to teach whatever I have learned in a very compressed format. So, if we really go ahead and learn it, it will take a very long time. We could definitely think about it in the future. But as far as this Vishishtadvaitha course in specific is concerned, the current course would every now and then cite the Divya Prabandha. So here and there we will see verses of the Divya Prabandha and understand the teachings of it. Maybe we could go through something like Tirupavai in complete detail. That is something that we could definitely do. Because
Yeah, Kalpavai Godastudi, like that small short ones.
yes, Goda Stuti is not from Divya Prabandham. It
Oh,
is
I see.
a Stuti on Goda, that is Andal, who is one of the Alvars. So,
Okay.
but yes, we would definitely go through that as well. We will eventually come, right? So right now we are at the stage of Alvars. Then we would be talking about the Acharyas before Bhagavad Ramanuja in short detail. Then we would go to Bhagavad Ramanuja himself. And then after him also, right, there is Vedanta Deshika, there is Manavala Mamunigal, who is called Varavara Muni in North India. So their works, in the work of Deshika, you see Goda Stuti. So all of that is there. It is all part of Vishishtadvaitha literature only. Through his various stotras, which are meant to be prayers and praises for Bhagavan and Bhagavati, Swami Vedanta Deshika has taught a lot of concepts of Vishishtadvaita. A lot of concepts can be very easily learned just by learning his stotras. But those would be just concepts. There is a reason why we are not moving that way. If we just look at the concepts, we might think, okay, this is just one way of understanding and move on. We might not be able to understand and appreciate the depth of knowledge that goes behind the presentation of the Siddhanta. If we want to appreciate that, we will have to follow a specific procedure. That is what we are trying to. Anything else?
enjoying the classes, Guruji. So it's so interesting. We have to wait till next Tuesday too.
What to do for that? Anyway, thank you for that. If the students are enjoying, then there is no greater enjoyment for the teacher also. Thank you then. If there is no other question, we will conclude the class. Shri Utsavam Shakala Shodhati Kaustubhasya Shri Vasaraghava Gurostanayam Tatasya Vidyavapya Vibudhotamatam Dadhanam Kurve Sada Hridi Gurum Karunakarakyam Lakshmీనాథ సమారంభాం నాథయామున మధ్యమాం అస్మదాచార్య పర్యంతాం వందే గురు పరంపరాం యో నిత్యమచ్యుత పదాంబుజ యుగ్మరుక్మ వ్యామోహతస్తదితరాణి తృణాయమేనే అస్మద్గురోర్భగవతోస్య దయైక సింధోః రామానుజస్య చరణౌ శరణం ప్రపద్యే కవితార్కిక సింహాయ కళ్యాణ గుణశాలినే శ్రీమతే వెంకటేశాయ వేదాంత గురవే నమః. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much, Guruji.
Thank you so much.
So we shall all meet in the next class, that is Ask Me Anything tomorrow. And it starts from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Kindly do join us, and thank you.
May I have Guru's Veeraraghavacharya's contact detail, please?
Sure, I'll ask him and I'll send you, madam.
In the group, yeah. Thank you so much.